But we can definitely get improved capacity utilization by smart meters and two-way communications between suppliers and end users. And we can have then a shift of the demand to off-peak. For example, now for hot water in households, in Norway we have the highest penetration of electric cars in the world. We have been subsidizing electric cars heavily. And of course there are then some batteries, some storage in batteries in that system. Typically they will then charge the batteries during night and then drive during the day. And so the interesting question, I think, is how will all this change the load curve? And I think that's an issue to discuss. Well, all of this, I think, create a lot of uncertainty about the future development. And for investors, now, for example, again in Norway, we see that there was a lot of interest in investing in capacity in hydro stations to be able to deliver a larger amount of power on a short notice. Now they are reconsidering this investment for two reasons. Because what will take place in the integrated system elsewhere in Europe, and then power prices are coming down. And in Scandinavia, one reason why power prices are coming down is that we are investing in this or designing this green certificate market with an extra production of, as I said, 26 to 30 terawatt hours. And this will probably or most likely create an excess capacity in the system with a downward pressure on prices. Good for the consumers, but not so good for the investors. But finally, what is the relevance for Latin America of all this? Well, the region here has huge resources of hydro, which we already have heard, both stored and flow of water. And this can then form a capacity reserve under increased intermittency in an integrated power market. But I think there are some preconditions. I think you have to have a market-oriented organization of the power system. You have to have a workable regional market integration. You have to invest in network interconnections to facilitate exchange of power between countries in the region. And then final issue is that what are the consequences for the power system of power exchange in an integrated market? Again, with us, for example, if we should succeed in being a battery for Europe, what will be the implication of the operation of the hydro system from hour to hour and from day to day if we should take full advantage of this possibility? Thank you very much. Bueno.
Okay. After these three excellent presentations, we have 15 minutes for questions. I believe the mechanism is that somebody is going to hand you a microphone and you can ask questions to any of the presenters and they will answer the question afterwards. Please observe that we have had three very interesting presentations. These presentations describe a market where the combination or the coordination between hydro and wind energy is a central element because of the conditions of those three economies, those three generation economies. And at the end of the presentation of Professor Hope, he spoke about the role of the markets and the interconnections, and it seems like a very promising environment. So we have a question. Good morning. This question is for Professor Hope, but I believe this question also applies for the person from the presenter from Uruguay, but especially for Professor Hope, because when he mentions that Norway has a installed capacity that is 100% hydraulic. I do not know if they have conducted studies in Norway as to how climate changes are going to affect that situation. Climate changes are going to affect us a lot in Latin America in terms of water availability tremendously. So if this is going to affect us in the year 2050 or 2070, I believe we have to take measures so we can begin implementing a transition so we have availability and supply security. My question is, have you conducted any studies as to see how climate changes can affect water availability for your hydraulic plants in Norway?
That's a question. In fact, we have the expression wetter, warmer, and wilder, which would be, so to speak, sum up the effect of climate change on the system. It will be wetter, so that there will be more inflow. It will be warmer, with less demand for and it will be more. It will be wilder in the sense that it will be windier. We don't know whether this will happen, of course, but I mean, this will definitely affect the system. With regard to the winder part, the wind may become more profitable, but again, as I said, as of now, wind is not profitable, and in fact, investment in wind is now declining rapidly. They are waiting for probably better signals, more subsidies. In fact, we are investing now not on the Norwegian side, but on the British side, because the support system is better there.
En Uruguay, el cambio climático.
In Uruguay, climate changes. If we increase temperature, we're going to have more water. That is our situation. It's not that global warming is working for us, but that is the situation that we currently have. Okay, the next question, please try to be brief in your questions, and if you want, you can tell us who you are.
Could you elaborate a little on the preconditions that you mentioned? Because I believe it's fair to say that for several countries in Latin America, these preconditions are not present. And so what are the consequences of, for example, not having a market-oriented organization of the power system?
Well, I'm not an expert on the Latin American system, so you have to be a little bit patient with me here. But coming back again to, I've heard from the presentation that still, except maybe for what you mentioned with Uruguay and Argentina, and in that region you have interconnections, but otherwise I think parts of the Latin American system is still mainly, so to speak, a national system. So I think by then investing in interconnections, you could then integrate the market and you could take better advantage of the hydro potential in the region to be a capacity reserve, both as a base load, but also as a peak load. But then the question again, will interconnections be profitable? There are huge investments involved. And again, as I said, now investors in Europe are reconsidering those investments because maybe they don't pay. But this is only a precondition. And again, I think that by combining, by integrating markets, you can then take advantage of economies of scale and scope, and you can then operate the system more efficiently than otherwise. Sí, la próxima. Perdón, acá.
Una pregunta para Ruben.
I am responsible for a pumping station for eolic energy. And a question, when we speak about smart, we have problems in our islands where we have lots of wind energy. We have problems with the quality of the service, and we confront many problems with inertia. Priorly, thermal energy, intermittence. But in the future, when we begin to integrate a lot more wind energy, we're going to have problems in terms of frequency increases, degradation of the quality of the service, because again, we're going to lose synergy in our system. I do not know if you have considered this a problem in Uruguay. Yes, the chart that I presented.
Lo que tienen en cuenta es, bueno, y que el sistema uruguayo está distribuido y que estamos haciendo un anillo de 500. O sea, nosotros no tenemos una isla llena de eólica, sino que cada país es una cosa diferente y nosotros estamos distribuyendo la eólica en el país. Entonces, lo que verificamos fue que con esa distribución las variaciones por debajo de la hora, o sea, la que hicimos fue diferencias 10 minutales, que esas variaciones
what we did was to make sure that those variations were similar to the variations that we currently manage through our variations, again up to 1200 megawatts. All the parks that are being installed are implementing modern technologies. Again, the park itself has a slide control and no variation. It includes a filter. So the parks that we are installing have new technology. They are distributed. All those things distributed, the variations, short-term variations, are similar to variations that would happen if we lose a thermal plant, and they are implemented by our control system. So up to 1200 megawatts, 1200 megawatts, we are comfortable. We believe that up to 2000 megawatts we're going to be comfortable. And again, I presented real information about the first 500 megawatts that we have in our system, and this is actually behaving much better than we expected. So when we reach that figure of 1200 megawatts, we're going to conduct a very detailed study to determine if we're going to continue installing wind energy without additional filters, or if we're going to install filter capacity. One of the things that is most surprising is that, say, if a pumping station takes a long time to be developed, so when you determine that you are going to build a pumping station, this takes more than 10 years. You have to buy land, convince people. So the most difficult thing in all systems is convincing the people that these systems need to be installed. So again, you need time in advance, and the most time in advance that you have, the better. You have to go to the place and begin doing it. It takes a long time. We do not forecast difficulties. Again, it is not the same as if we had an island with 100 megawatts of wind energy and a cable connecting that island. if one of the conditions for these installations to occur is that if you have full power and it disappears, the voltage variation that occurs needs to be less than the limit allowed. All the installations that we are implementing are tested in full power and in zero, and we make sure that the tension or voltage difference is not degraded. One more question. I would like to ask a question for Elbia. In both our presentation, Professor Ruben and Professor Bull, you spoke about the use of water in the reservoirs of the hydroelectric plants to balance wind energy. We have a capacity in Brazil of 174,000 hours of storage, but again, we do not have that debate. The water that we have in our reservoirs is water for generating electricity at a lower cost, but not to do what you guys were explaining before. Why is this the case in Brazil? Not to come.
Actually, we start to discuss
it. I think we didn't discuss because we started some years ago, 3 or 4 years, but there are a lot of studies that can show how much hydro is complementary with wind. Or complementary is almost one. It's perfect complementary, and we that work wind start to talk with the government, with investors, in order to discuss more and think about how to put it together, how invest in it. I think this discussion will be better in the next years, maybe now, because if you see, I show in my picture, a picture that since September, maybe October, that is, we suppose that is rain time in Brazil, but it's not rain time. No rain time is really wind time. And it's really complementary, and the solar complementary too. I was looking at a picture from Uruguay, then I noticed that how much wind, solar, biomass and hydro can work very well, and you avoid thermal plants. I believe that our metrics in the future need to think this way. I believe Brazil can be very competitive if invest and looking at in this kind of optimization. We started to discuss it, and I have been working hard with this argument.
Bueno,
one more question. A very short question for the 3 presenters. If you can give us your opinion as to how the current scenario is going to be affected, the current oil-based market is going to be affected because of renewable energies. We in the year 2010, when we conducted the optimization that helped us determine that we were going to have 1,200 megawatts, we thought the price for this was going to be $90 per megawatt. Once we conducted auctions, we did not receive prices as good as the ones in Brazil, because they have very good winds there, very strong winds. So we obtained $63 per megawatt hour. We recently conducted we looked at numbers again with the new prices of petroleum. Back then, petroleum prices were $90 per barrel. We conducted these calculations again We conducted the calculations again, but it's relatively the same. It is definitely convenient in terms of prices to install wind energy. What perhaps can change our future plans is that the value that we gave to natural gas instead of gas oil. Prices of natural gas are not as attractive anymore. In this new scenario, again, it's not that because it is cheap you're going to consume more. No, that's not the case. Because it is less expensive, going from gas oil to natural gas is not really such a big benefit anymore. So again, you may lose benefits in terms of substituting fuels. But again, if you substitute something for something that is less expensive, it's not going to affect your plan. This may affect what you consume. You will not consume gas oil instead of natural gas. Prices for wind energy, as I mentioned, are approximately $45 per megawatt. Prices for fossil fuels are a lot more expensive. They are approximately $80 to $90 per megawatt hour. In the last year, Brazil hired in thermal plants, a coal thermal plant. This price was approximately 60 to 70% more than wind energy. And this is something very interesting because Brazil can generate renewable energies that are a lot more competitive than fossil fuels. But Brazil has made tremendous investments in fossil fuel because the government of Brazil, the system operator, they do not give a lot of credibility to wind energy or to other types of renewable energies because they say they're intermittent or that they are not secure sources. So again, they have a lot of concerns and they invest a lot in thermal plants. This is a debate that is very frequent, and we do have a big challenge in Brazil. We have to convince the authorities, operators, planners, that the new renewable energies are definitely complementary with each other and that we need to rely more on these new sources for energy generation. Thank you very much. Apologize.
Between the political ambitions to increase the share of renewables in the power system and the market realities. And as I mentioned now, I think there's a reaction now because the investors are considering the profitability of investing in new renewables. And for example, in Germany, the Energiewende, they are reconsidering it, and in many countries. So, and we also see that now the subsidy element is fairly high. So that's also an issue to face. But I think personally that definitely there will be an increase, but I mean not as high as the political ambitions because the market will, so to speak, react to them.
Bueno, ahora sí.
Okay, now please let's give our presenters a hand. We are now going to go to the concurrent sessions. I will give you news at 2 p.m. Santander Salon. There's going to be a conference about the graduate course from ALAVE, Argentina University Nacional from Rio de Janeiro, and National University of the Republic of Uruguay. Thank you very much.